GIS stands for Geographical Information Systems. Most people think of it as just maps, but really it's so much more than that. The key is the information part. You can store the stuff on the map, but actually it's the information behind that map that gives it the real power. Before we had GIS and the National Trust, we used to use paper maps. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with paper maps, we still use them today, but for managing information it's not that great. Basically, as soon as you print a paper map, it's out of date, and when you need to add multiple features to the map, you're doing that with felt tip pens, acetates, bits of string. It's hard to manage. So with a digital system, we can have everything all in one place. So how do National Trust use digital maps? Well, we manage land, and land is multifaceted. We cover everything from the environmental features, such as trees and habitats, to heritage, such as monuments and listed buildings, through to just operational boundaries, such as our ownership boundaries and lease agreements. So we use it for a really wide suite of things across the whole National Trust. The GIS Browser is our version of GIS, so it's basically the Google Maps for National Trust. It's simple to use and contains all the information that you need in order to do your job. So if you're a ranger, for example, in a place like this, you'll be looking at trees, habitats, legal boundaries, designations, heritage features, and all sorts of other stuff that's available in the layer list in the GIS Browser. Apart from being easy to use and available to all National Trust staff, the GIS Browser has got a whole host of features to help you do your job more simply. It allows you to do things like collect information in the field and import it onto the map, to manipulate that information, add labels, change the colour symbology and so on, and then print a map or export it into a different format.
In our strategy at its heart, we have an objective around looking after what we've got. That sounds very simple. It masks a real complexity of information, different types of assets, the fields we're looking out at here, the buildings that surround us in the village. GIS is all about capturing that information in a very visual way on maps, in a way that all of us can understand and use day to day. GIS is an incredibly powerful tool for allowing you to do that in one go with all sorts of lovely clickable layers. So you can take what you've seen out on the ground straight back to your office and start to plan for what you're going to do to make it even better for nature. I'm not a tech savvy person at all, but GIS is a way where I can really start to get excited about using these kind of tools. So it seems to me entirely intuitive. It's all stuff that even a complete imbecile like me can use.
I've been using GIS Browser for about 2 years. I use it for a variety of purposes. A lot of health and safety and compliance work we do. So working with contractors, producing exchange of information forms. I use GIS Browser to produce maps that are a visual representation of that information. If you're thinking of using the GIS Browser, go onto the intranet, open up the GIS Browser and see what's actually there in front of you. So there's a toolbar and there's a layers column. Have a look at those, explore, pick a site you know really well or pick a site you don't know really well and actually see what information is available to you and what you can do with it. So for example, there's loads of layers on there. You can look at your ancient and notable trees on a property. You could look at scheduled ancient monuments as part of your monitoring. As well as that, you could look at how you use the sort of tool system to draw information on there and share information with other people as well. In my day-to-day work, GIS Browser helps me a lot getting things done efficiently. It's a really good way of actually representing information, whether that's for contractors or people wanting to run events on your land. It's all there in front of them and it's really easy to use.
The GIS system we've got is fantastic, really user-friendly. I've been using it in its reincarnated version for about 18 months. It spatially maps all of our assets, which is phenomenally important when we're trying to look at the estate as a whole and not just look at individual sections of it. We use it to manage our tenancy data. Mapping is extremely important. We need to be really clear as to where our boundaries lie and where they don't, and where our liabilities maybe interact with our neighbours. We use it for land management purposes, to map out current land use and to try and programme the land use that we're trying to achieve in the future. It's a phenomenally useful tool, and I think without it we'd be back to the days where we're trying to interpret old mapping, where you may have a boundary line that in real life it's about 100 metres thick. We're able to go into such a distinct scale that it takes that vagarity out of it and we can really look at the detail. We have a site on the estate called Babri Wood, which is predominantly a conifer plantation, about 250 acres in size. Historically there's been a lot of mountain biking activity within the woodland. So we're currently working on an off-road cycling trail programme to go in at Babri. And GIS has been critical in the planning of that process so far. The system allows us to overlay various layers and data sets on top of each other. Things like the scheduled ancient monument layers and the woodland ecology layer, the ancient semi-natural woodland boundaries. Once those layers are applied to the mapping, you could then really quite clearly pick out where you'd be best placed to plot the trails to avoid these areas of known sensitivity. Without GIS, we would have been going in the woods trying to map things out by hand, so this has been a fantastic tool for us.
The GIS Browser can be accessed via the National Trust intranet pages, along with how-to guides and other supporting information. Whatever job you do in the National Trust, we think the GIS Browser is a useful tool for you.